Hello and welcome to the first of many soon-to-be tutorials on Substance Designer 5. My name's Charlie and I shall be taking you through this first substance that we have with us today, which is the diamond-plated steel material. So this is the kind of material that you see kind of on the floor in industrial areas. So you know it's the bumpy metal stuff that you find around. So I guess we'll just jump straight into it. So when you open up Substance Designer 5, you'll be greeted with a menu saying, oh, do you want to create a new substance? And you'll have a list on the right saying you've got recent substances if you have any. You just want to click on the new substance button and then you'll get moved to this screen here. So this is the new graph menu, just essentially setting up the document before you start. So let's just look through this first. So we have the graph template, which is basically how we choose the pipeline that we want to work off. So I mean, we don't have to do that. We can just choose empty, and we can input our own outputs if we want. But it's just a quick way to make sure that we have at least the bare minimum outputs as we need for that particular pipeline. So you've got your empty, physically based metallic roughness, physically based specular glossiness. You've got your standard, and you've got all these other ones down here as well. Well, but just for this, we'll be sticking with our PBR, metallic, and roughness. Over here, we have the graph properties. So we've got the graph name. So let's just call that the metal floor tutorial. Do that. There we go. Cool. Alright, that's pretty straightforward. And then we have the size mode. Right, so size mode has two options. You have absolute and you have relative to parent. Absolute is basically whenever you bring in a new node into Substance Designer 5, it will be locked to, well, it won't be locked to, but it will be brought in at the dimensions that you set for the width and the height of the resolution of any of the nodes and the document. Now, if you set it to absolute, that's basically what's going to happen. So every time you bring in a node, it's going to be stuck at 2048 by 2048. You can change it if you want, but that's just how they'll come in initially. Now, alternatively, you can have relative to parent. So relative to parent will mean that any node that you bring into Substance Designer will be set at 256 by 256, which is the default for Substance Designer 5. So like we said, there we go, it will just come up like this. There we go. Relative to parent, the size is driven by the host where the graph is instantiated. Default parent size is 256 by 256 in Substance Designer. So pretty straightforward. I won't bother with format, it's not too important. So then we have the graph output. So we have our base color, our normal, our roughness, and metallic. So if you're familiar with any PBR at all, you'll recognize these names quite normally. It's basically the diffuse is the base color, but it doesn't have any lighting information at all. You have the normal, which hasn't changed at all from the last iteration of pipelines. Roughness, which will control how shiny or how matte a material can be. So with a metal, it's likely to be fairly shiny depending on the metal you're making. Then you have the metallic, which means that you're just assigning metallic or non-metallic properties to the material. So with just that basically covered, we'll just start making the material now. There we go. Okay, cool. Right, so this is what you'll be welcomed with when you start up the substance. So we have the 3D view, base color and parameters and all this around here. Yours is probably going to look a little bit different because I have laid mine out to to kind of go along with how I prefer to work. So I like to see my stuff get updated as soon as I put it on the node into the 3D view. So Substance Designer 5 will update the model, the 3D view, every time that you decide to put a new node in and change any values. So to start off with, I guess we should maybe just go around and just describe what you're looking at. So this is the basics of Substance Designer 5's user interface. So your Explorer, pretty straightforward really. This pretty much just has any of the substances that you have open currently, and you can just double click. So say if you have another substance open, and it will just take you back to your other substances, and then you can just go back, no problem whatsoever. So this is essentially your documents area. So seeing where what substances you have open and available to you. It's all really quite simple. You can just open them and they'll all turn up there, and then you can go back to the one that you want to work on. In here we have the node viewport, so this is where you're going to be spending a lot of the time. You're going to be dropping in all the nodes in this area, linking them up using little noodle things like this. Over here we have the parameters menu, so each node has its own set amount of parameters, so you can do with what you like, I guess, with the nodes that you bring in. They have a variety of different uses, so this is just the standard for the entire thing, the entire substance. But I mean, if we click on it, that's for the output for the base color. So we get the identifier, and this is all the attributes for this node. But I mean, once we start getting more in, we'll start seeing a lot more different attributes to nodes. Then down here we have the 2D viewport. So 2D viewport, if we, whenever we double click on a node, it will give us a 2D representation of what that node looks like at that point. So any nodes that have been plugged into it previously will then show up all added together into this. And then obviously we have our 3D viewport. So at the moment I'm just using the round cube. It's pretty straightforward. It's set as the default for Substance Designer, but I mean, you can go into the geometry and change it as you will. So we've got cylinder, got loads of geometry that you can choose from. You can even upload your own, but we're not going to bother with that. We're just going to stick with actually making the materials first off. And there we go. And lastly, but no means least, we have the library. So the library is what it says on the tin. Essentially, you have an entire library of your generators, so your masks, your filters, which you can apply through the masks and to the masks. Loads of different material filters, tons of things that you can play around with and get really awesome results. And also, because it's PBR, you have a small selection, well, quite a large selection actually, of environments that you can apply to the 3D viewport, so you can see what your material looks like in different kind of lighting environments. So we'll just go for this one. I mean, you'll see the reflection in it because it's just a reflective cube currently, and you can set it so that you can actually see the background here, but I've got it so it's just set to this kind of like nice vignette. So then we'll just go back and we'll just play with the abandoned place. That'll do. That's cool. We'll stick with that. Cool. Right. So with all the features kind of just skimmed over lightly, we'll get started. So to start with, I guess what we should do is just work with the actual metal itself. It's pointless starting anything else until we have our base material, and then we can start using the material to create more interesting materials. So we are making this kind of not dull metal, but it's not exactly particularly overly shiny or reflective. Yeah, we'll start with the metal. So right, in your node viewport, you can either right click and go to add node, and you'll get all your list of nodes there, or to make it even quicker for yourself, you can just press spacebar. And what we're going to do, we are just going to add a uniform color, and we are going to add that into the base color. So that is a black, and it's not really changed anything, because if you don't have anything plugged in, Substance will just see it as being black anyway. So because it's metal, metal can be black if you like, but I mean, for the sake of this metal, we're going to make it a little bit lighter, quite a bit lighter actually. So there we go, that'll do. Yeah, roughly that'll do. Okay, cool. Right, so we'll ignore the normal maps for now. We don't have to do anything with that quite yet. So, I mean, roughness. Next, we shall add another uniform colour. Cool, right, there you go. And what you may have noticed then is they automatically linked it up. So what you can do a lot of the time with the nodes is, if you have a set of nodes linked up and say, okay, you've got a uniform colour in this, if you just click on the node and make sure it's, you know, highlighted properly, spacebar, and then, I don't know, let's try just putting in a gradient map or something. So what it'll do, it'll instantly put it in through the noodles. And also, if your node that you've put in is a color, and the map that you're putting in between the two nodes requires grayscale, it will automatically add you a grayscale conversion as well. Likewise, if you need to convert a grayscale to a color, it'll do that automatically for you as well. But that's not what we need right now, so we can just get rid. So we can delete and relink. There we go. Or alternatively, press backspace, and it will, you know, relink the nodes together without us having to link it up once we delete the other nodes. So, for roughness, black means it is perfectly flat and fully reflective, as you can see here. We don't quite want that, so what we'll do, we'll just set it to grayscale. Don't need any colour for it, and we'll just go down the line a little bit. That's probably good. That'll do it for now, anyway, and then we can get further into it later on, and we'll start playing around with the values for that. Cool. I'll delete that. Oh, and you also may have noticed that I did also dock the color node here to the base color. Pretty simple. I mean, if you don't need that node, if it's not really doing anything important, you don't need access to it. I mean, you can still access it. You can just click on it and you'll get the attributes there anyway. But if you're not really going to be using it, just to make it a little bit tidier of a workspace, you can just press D on the keyboard and that will dock it. But for now, we're just going to leave that out because we will be using the roughness later anyway. Right, so we also have the metallic. So again, click on it, spacebar, uniform color, pretty easy, just dock it, grayscale, and because it is actually metallic, it is a white value, which is sorted. Right, there we go. So now we can actually get a bit more of a better understanding of the roughness map that we need. So we can change the color a little bit. I think we're actually okay where we were, so we'll just Control Z. Cool. Right. So where do we go from here? We have all of this, all this space, and we should probably use it up. So where do we go from here? We have nothing in the normal currently. I mean, that's pretty much where we're going to get all this nice detail on the bumpiness of the diamond plate flooring. So let's go to the normal, and we can just start off with actually finding a pattern that will relate best to the kind of pattern that we need. So we'll go to the library, we'll go to generators, and we'll go down, 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 down. We'll try and find something that looks like it will fit perfectly. Now we have, where is it? There we go, cool. We'll go for mesh 1. So drag mesh one in. Cool. There we go. Double click. Now double clicking, as I said, will bring it up into the 2D viewport. Best thing is you can leave that up, and if you have any nodes that are plugging into this that can alter how this node looks, you can just click on that node and you can change the attributes without actually having to change the 2D viewport. Just a little handy thing. We'll probably do that again in a bit anyway, once we start getting into the substance a bit more. Right, so we have the mesh 1 involved, and it's a little bit big. I mean, it's there, but it's, you know, it's not quite what we need. I mean, you know, you can't just take that into it. You could take it into Engine, but you could scale it yourself. But I mean, why do that when you could get a decent size already? So what we can do is, using the attributes, we can just start playing with the tiling. So okay, cool. I'll go to 10. 10 seems like a good choice. And as I said, you know, different nodes have different attributes. Not much to do with this instance. Some of them have quite a lot of detail in their parameters, but not with this one. We just have the tiling, and we have the buttons that rotate 45 degrees. So as you can see, with this one, that's how they are. The little, you know, bumps are rotated slightly. So that's what I did with this one. So we'll just click it here. I'll go to that. Down and true. There we go. So as you can see, it's now all rotated, and it looks a little bit more, you know, it looks closer to what we want to achieve. So what do we do next? Oh, I guess we need to get it into the normal. Now, plugging it in doesn't actually do what we want it to do, because it is not a normal image, it's just black and white. So the next best thing to do would be to add a normal modifier. So spacebar, normal, there we go. Sorted. Oh, it's kind of sorted. We're getting there. We're getting there. So we have our normal map now built. Double click and you can see it all here. Now with the normal maps, what you'll find when you bring it into the nodes into Substance Designer 5 is that you'll see the alpha behind. Now it's not a big deal, because I mean, if there's nothing there anyway, it's not going to affect how the normal looks. Basically it's just saying that the alpha area is just all, you know, it's the plain normal color. It's not changed. It doesn't have any high definition. It's not a big deal. We can change that if you want. I'll show you a little trick to get rid of that in the alpha. But again, like I said, it's not a huge deal. So we now have our bump, but it doesn't look quite right. It's very slow. It's quite a gradient slope. It's not quite defined as we would want it to be. So what we can do is we'll just move the node over, and we'll select it, spacebar, and we'll go to levels. So this brings a levels node in. So it's exactly what you think it is if you're used to playing around with Photoshop at all. So right, so we have this levels node. We want to make this more defined. So if we just double click on it, and we'll go there, cool, and we can start to play around and tighten up the node, the alpha on the node. And so it's making it more blurred. I mean, that's quite a cool pattern. It's a bit weird though. We don't really need that. Could use it later on though. So let's try and playing around with it, making it a bit tighter. That's more like it. Cool. That's not too bad. That's workable. Let's see. Have a look at it. It's maybe a bit too sharp on the top. So we can go with that, and then yeah, that's not too bad. We can play around with it later anyway. The best thing about it is that it's all procedural. We can change it on the fly, and as you've been seeing now, it's very, very quick to show you what you're doing. So cool, that's done almost, I guess. Like I said, we can get back to it later on. We'll just start changing it a bit, just seeing what's happening there. It's just making it grayer. It's not too bad. Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do for now anyway. So we have this, but it's it's very clean. It's quite shiny actually. We could probably do with toning down the shininess. That doesn't really work either. So I guess what we could do is just add a little bit more of a grungy look to it to kind of give the light to bounce off something. So I mean, at the moment we just have this grey colour, and it's very flat, and it shows in the roughness. There's no kind of detail at all, and really that's one of the best things about PBR, is that you can get so much detail out of the roughness map that it's almost as important as a good base colour, to make sure that you've got something that's eye-catching, and giving something for the light to bounce off of is pretty important in a physically based workflow. So I mean, what do we have? We have a grunge map. Got loads here. It's got loads. So which one do we choose? We could choose any of them really. So let's go for, I don't know, grunge map 13. There we go. Right. So get rid of this. We don't really need it anymore. And we'll just plug that in. So double click. Well, it's definitely made a change, but it's maybe it's made the metal very shiny, and it's made where the areas are not very shiny at all. So we need to change that a bit. We need to make it look better. Best thing to do: select the node and bring in another levels node, and again, it's just playing around with the levels to make sure that we get the best out of it as possible. So I guess we'll just change the values just slightly here. Bit down like that. Down. Oh, I don't know about that. Oh, that's too dark. Let's try that. Cool. That's not too bad. It's maybe a bit too much still. I'll drag that down. Up a bit. That's better. That's not too bad. I think maybe it needs a bit more spread on it. So what we could do is, and what we probably will do, is we'll just select the node again, and this time we'll bring in a transformation 2D node. Right, so this pretty much does what it says on the tin, essentially. So you select the node and zoom out in the 2D view. What you get greeted with is this transform box, which isn't actually at all dissimilar to what you would expect to see if you chose to transform an image in Photoshop. So you've got this little box, and you can just play around with it. And what we're doing is changing the spread of our grunge, and you can play around with it for hours just to get something that you think is going to work best. So I mean, and you can overlay this a lot. You can play around with different nodes and get different kind of lighting variations. So something like this it's not too bad. Oh, I could deal with that. It's okay. Maybe squishing it a bit, making it a bit longer. So it looks scuffed, kind of. It looks like it's had a lot of things kind of wheeled over it. I mean, there's no scratches in it yet, but we can get round to that. Yeah, it's not bad, but I mean we can play around with it a bit more. But I think for now, you get the idea. Right, so with that, what else could we do to it? There's loads of things. So what we could do is, as I mentioned just a second ago, we can add scratches. So let's go to scratches in to the library. So scratched metal, that might do. I'll bring that in. I'll try that one. Scratches one, that'll do. Actually, no. What we'll do, we'll try a scratches generator. So what we have here is the generator for a scratch mask. So it's quite standard. You can just looks all right there. Looks all right there. But I mean, we've got loads of things that we can play around with here to make it look different. So we've got tons of things we can do. Scratch it all over. Just slightly scratch it. The scale of the scratches as well. Make it larger. We'll go for something quite small, and the threshold really doesn't do much at this point. And also what we can do is play around with the seed. So you can also do this with pretty much any instance node. Some of them not really, because they are kind of set in the ways and how they look, but something like grunge or clouds or scratches, playing around with it and you get different kind of approaches on how they could look. So I think that looks alright. You know, play around with it a bit more. Nope, didn't mean to press that. I think maybe we should go back in and there we go. We'll change that bit. That's not too bad. That's better actually. We'll deal with that. Cool. So there we go. We've got our scratches in. So how do we get these to go together? The best thing to do is to blend them. So what we do, select either one of these. Don't really matter. I'll go with that one. Select blend. Cool. Right. So there we go. We've got a blend node. So what we can do, we have foreground, background, and opacity. So the opacity is something. So if we want to, it's more of a masking area. So it will take background, which is black, and foreground, which will be white, and it will overlay those different instances into the blend node. So there we go. That's alright. That's not too bad actually. That's pretty good. Okay. Probably want to invert that though, because white is going to be not very shiny. I mean, scratches are fairly shiny, especially in metal. So we'll choose a... Nope, don't have it on here. So what we can do, we'll just find an invert grayscale. So we'll go invert. So we've got invert grayscale. We'll drag that in. Oh, I said we'll drag that in. There we go, cool. Connect and connect. Right, okay, so what we've done is we may have to actually change the blend mode to account for the fact that I've had to, there we go, multiply it. There we go, multiply it, and we get the little black scratches. So they'll show up a lot nicer on the metal. So we can plug that in, and it's not, you can see it, it's there, but it needs something else. It needs, I think it probably would need to be plugged into the normal. So best thing to do is we'll just move these out, tidy it up a bit before we start getting some more stuff in. There we go, we've got the normal node there. So what we can do is, again, we'll just blend and put it there. And same as what we did with the roughness, we can just set it to multiply. Now that's quite strong at the moment, and it's not really what we want. We want it to be scratched, but we don't want it to be so scratched. So what we can do is just lower down the opacity, and that's not too bad. It probably could do with being a little bit less on the opacity. It's better. And what we can do is we'll add a levels node into this one between this and the scratch and the normal, just because we want to make sure that the normals are actually getting picked up properly. So it's not really quite where we want it right now. So if we just move this out, we have the levels node here. We'll just double click on that, so we can see that the scratches are there. We just need to make sure that they're a bit more bigger, I guess. Let's just go for scale first and see what happens. Oh, that just doesn't look nice. We'll go back. We'll go back. Go back. Yeah, that's about right. That's about what we need. And then we'll go on to the levels. Oh, we don't want to double click. We want to do that. And we'll start playing around with the levels. Tell you what we could actually do is play around with the levels on that as well, so we can make this really quite shiny in places from where the scratches are. In all fairness, we probably don't even need that in the normal, so we can get rid of that and see how it looks. That's not bad. Maybe it could be in the normals. It just make it quite a weak normal. That's maybe too weak. I think it's also because the normals are raised on here and we want them to be inverted in places. Or are they? Actually no, it's fine. It's fine. So we're almost there. It's not quite where I want it to be. Now we'll just start tweaking the values a little bit, and then we're almost done with it. Almost. Right, okay, we'll go with the levels and start tweaking them a little bit more. What's it doing to the roughness? Okay, wow. Okay, so we've got a lot of detail on that roughness, and the scratches are fairly sharp. That's not a bad thing, and you can definitely pick it up. Probably what we should do is, instead of just having one load of grunge, which it's alright, but what we should really be doing is adding another set of grunge maps. So that's what we'll do. We'll delete that, and we'll just select these, duplicate selection, and they'll come out all the same. They're all linked. Add a blend. Move that out. It doesn't really matter which way we put these, and then we'll just stick that in there. Now what we can do, we can either just play around with the random seed in here and play around with the levels on this one. You get quite nice variation in how it looks. So if we go with multiply, oh, maybe not multiply, let's try screen. No, it's weird. Try an overlay. That's it. That's kind of what we want. We can make it a little bit less on the top one. So I mean, what we could do is have the same grunge map and just play around with the random seeds, or we'll go and find something else. So let's try and find another grunge, not frunge. We'll try grunge. Okay, get grunge map up. There we go. There, and put that there. Cool. So there we go. already got a lot more difference in detail on that roughness map. And I guess what we could start doing is make it fairly white. Let's start bringing it up a bit, and we'll bring that there. There you go. That's not bad. That's cool. We can deal with that. Brilliant. Right, so I think we're almost there. The thing that's bugging me is these scratches. These scratches are really not right. So let's try. That's better. Changing the values on that works. So there we go. That is our diamond plated steel flooring material, and it's all procedural. There was no bitmaps applied. It's all made with substance, and I think for a first substance, it shows off just at a starting point what you can do just by playing around with a few of the parameters based on different nodes. You can wind up with something really quite nice. I mean, that's definitely something that you could just take into, say, a factory scene that you're making and put it on the flooring, or even just put it in kind of as a plate or something, just along a cement floor. You know, it's you can play around with it, and you can get some really nice results. Right. Well, so that's your, you know, maybe your first substance material, maybe not, but you know, I hope it's helped. I hope it's gotten you the results that you want, and that is it. So I shall see you next time, and what I'm probably going to do a couple more of these. So probably going to be doing a flaked painted wood, and I'll also be doing a tile one as well, so ceramic tiles. Something that's a little bit more advanced than this. So the wood one's probably going to be coming up next, and I'll try and get that up as soon as possible. Alright, well that's it guys, thanks for watching, and please leave any comments in the below bit, and I shall see you all later.